Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Cloud with Chris. You're with me, Chris Reddington, and here we talk about all things cloud. Now, thank you for joining. We are in weekly vlog number 20, so that is 5 months of doing these weekly vlogs. Thank you for the support. Thank you for helping me keep these going and letting me keep you entertained here with all of the content that we're working on. So an exciting one today. I'll give some news about a recent milestone I've hit, but you'll probably already know that if you follow me on social media already, but we'll jump to that in just a moment. So we'll mix things up a bit today. We'll start with the Cloud with Chris stuff this week, and then we'll go ahead and we will look at the Azure blog, the Azure Updates, the Azure Devops blog, and then finally the GitHub blog in this session. So without further ado, let's go ahead, jump over to the screen share. And of course, we have to start with the incredible news this week that I am so pleased to say that I had a goal for 2021 to reach 500 subscribers, and I've hit it way ahead of schedule, actually. We're not even halfway through the year, and I'm currently sitting at 506 subscribers. So to all my friends, to all my family, to everyone who's followed me, from whether it's been posting on Reddit, on Dev2 or Medium.com, or whether you've been following me on social media for some time, just a big thank you, because I'm really, I'd say it's still at the beginning of my journey and learning a lot along the way. And I know there are things with the content that could be improved along the way, and I'm taking notes, but to see these numbers growing as quickly as they are is really exciting and really pleasing. So just a big thank you for all the support, because I'm now looking for what is next, what's on the horizon with the content. I've got some ideas. I've been thinking about how I change things up as well, and looking forward to the next 500. So let's see, can I get to 1,000 by the end of the year? But going to carry on with what I've been doing, what I know works well. So I know the architecture content works well. I know the interview type sessions with people from the real world. We've got a lot of that coming up. And we've also got quite a few cloud drop type content as well. Interestingly, having guests on the Cloud Drop worked really well with Carol de Winter recently, so going to be trying to get a bit more of that in lines as well. So again, just keep watching, because there's going to be a lot more coming up, so stay tuned for that. So again, just big thank you, because all of this I couldn't do without you and without all of your support, so it is truly appreciated. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at what's been going on this week, because it has been a very busy week actually in terms of content. So first off, if we look at Monday, the first thing that happened was I released a blog post about Azure Pipelines tips, and this is really focused on Azure YAML pipelines. So pipelines as code. Let me go ahead, click into this one so you can see a nice long blog post there, all about pipelines as code, why I think they're beneficial, the fact of the benefits you can get, like having these branch policies, for example, in place, and being able to control what goes in, separating tests into multiple branches so you don't influence other people's work, for example, and all of these kind of things that you get from a code perspective as well. I lay that out in a fairly lengthy blog post there. Then on Tuesday, I released a cloud drop on the same topic. So if you're more of a visual learner and someone who likes to listen into content, then I've got you covered there as well. And that's something I'm going to try and do a bit more often. If I'm writing something which is a bit more of a tutorial or a sample, could that be a cloud drop? That's something I'm going to try and replicate, as it seems to work quite well there. Next up then, on Tuesday as well, had a session on devreel.io, which was all about Azure in a nutshell. Really great session. Thank you for having me, Sven and team. Really enjoyed it. I think you guys have some really funky and brilliant intro music, or what is it, the countdown music there. Was definitely getting me in the vibe and ready to go. So, yeah, really enjoyed that one. And we talked all about content from the Azure Fundamentals kind of syllabus and course there. So if that's something you've been preparing for, you're interested in taking, that might be a video that is of interest to you there. Next up then on Wednesday, another tutorial type blog post, this time focused around building an event-driven architecture or event-driven workflow using Azure Event Grid. Had a lot of fun writing this one, actually. This was related to some things that I've been seeing recently, some trends, etc. And I talk about chaining together a load of services like Azure Event Grid, Azure Storage, Azure Storage Queues, both blob storage and storage queues there. And then also I talk about Azure Functions as well. And talk about, if you had this requirements to go ahead and make sure that you process something that gets created in your blob storage and how you guarantee processing of each of those files. So talking through that as a kind of process, some of the considerations along the way, differences between messages and events, different types of queuing technologies that you have in Azure as well. So a lot to cover in there. And once again, there is a cloud drop for that one, which we'll come to in a bit, but a nice lengthy blog post again if you are interested there. Then on Thursday, we had the Cloud Lunch and Learn Marathon. So pre-recorded a few sessions for that. One on requirements, design patterns, cloud architecture, oh my, which is my session all about requirements, why they're important in the cloud, how that translates into things like the cloud adoption framework and landing zones, how that then translates into cloud design patterns and the applications that you build on top of that. So again, lots of content in that one. Then a few staples of mine then. One on how GitHub Actions can help in building and deploying a static website and more. And then the other on using Hugo, Azure Storage and Azure CDN for a cheap and performance site in Azure. So again, lots of content there. I thought it was a really well done, I don't know if you call it a conference, but a global virtual event. I think Hugo, the team, I know Lisa as well has been involved quite a lot in that one. So for all the folks that are involved in that and all the speakers, I think it was truly a wonderful event. Managed to catch a few sessions myself, and I know a few of the local community speakers as well also submitted some talks. So again, brilliant event. So kudos to everyone involved for that one. And then also on Thursday, another episode, another event, did a live stream with my good friends Andrew Nathan and Will Owen as well. And this was a special one because it was Mental Health Week last week. So, of course, you may have heard Andrew and myself speaking previously on the channel about mental health. We went in a bit more depth, I think, this time. And I certainly went in a bit more depth about my experiences as well and some of the things that have happened with my mental health. And it really is important to talk, and we give our experiences. We mention in there, we caveat, we are not mental health or health experts at all or health professionals, but what we do is we talk about our experiences, what helped us, some of the things we experienced along the way, and how we got through and how we were able to go and help ourselves. So if you feel like you want to tune in and just understand and try and get some additional perspectives, that may be an interesting video for you to go and watch. And it's been really, really pleasing just speaking to some of my friends who I didn't expect to tune into that. Colleagues, when I checked my work email the next day, just seeing some of their messages because they watched it, and just some of the reception to that. So it really is important to talk about these things. So again, I know Chris, for example, Chris Wright was chatting on the live chat as well, and I know that it was a great discussion that helped him and some of the challenges he's been going through. So everyone's got their own journey and their own experiences they're going through, and it really is important to talk, and there's always an open door to talk about these kind of things on the show. So if anyone ever wants to come and talk about any of these types of topics, please do. It's something I'm incredibly passionate. I know it's not quite cloud, but it's something that I still feels is very important, worth the time on the show here. So maybe I will even add a separate section on the site on Sessionize for that. So that's something I'll maybe consider as part of the next 500, for example. But nevertheless, check that one out if that is useful. And then on Friday, another great session. I was very, very pleased to have Jamie Mcguire join me. I think it was last week we recorded this one, talking all about a platform he's been building called Social Opinion. I have since subscribed to the platform itself. I mentioned in that recording that I hadn't yet. It was on my to-do list, and I have now done that. Brilliant platform, brilliant show, brilliant episode, talking with Jamie about how he built a software as a service platform for effectively social marketing and understanding what your audiences are interested in. So a great session there. Once again, I'm just going to turn the phone off. I have got a new phone, as you could probably tell by the ringtone there. It's no longer an Android sounding device, we'll put it that way. But yes, and then finally the other piece of content that got released last week was another cloud drop, building an event-driven workflow with Event Grid. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to try with some of these more tutorial or sample-based blog posts to do a short video alongside as well. So this is the one for the Event Grid session, and that came out on Saturday. So yes, if you've been keeping tabs there was content every single day of last week. That's not going to be the normal, of course, but I was just impressed actually that I managed to get that much content out in a week. So there we go. That was good fun. Next up then, in terms of talks this week and what is going on, we have got on Tuesday, Devops Nuts, we have a session there. So we're going to be delivering the how GitHub Actions can help in building and deploying a static website and more. And spoiler alert for the Azure blog sessions coming up in a moment, static websites has now gone GA. So static web apps, I should say, has gone GA. So that means I'm going to slightly have to adjust how I present that one, I think, and my other content. But yeah, it's an interesting one, that one, and I'm really pleased for that announcement, but more on that later. In terms of blog posts this week, I will be blogging on, I'll write it today, haven't written it just yet, but for tomorrow about the 500 subscribers, and just a big thank you for the support. And then I did have another topic for later in the week, but it has escaped me at the moment, but there will be, again, the 2 blog posts coming out once again this week here. And other than that, I know I'm running a little bit behind with guests, etc. So if you have submitted a session on Sessionize, thank you very much. That is appreciated. I know I've also been reaching out to a few folks individually to get them on the show, and we're going to get that all scheduled in as well. So we're getting another great set of community speakers lined up. The backlog is still running till October, so I am trying to figure a way of squeezing more content in where I can without burning myself out along the way. I want to make sure I keep giving back to the community, so working on that. So again, if you've got any ideas or you want to see anything specifically on the show, let me know, because I'd love to hear your ideas. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm very interested in getting guests onto the Cloud Drop sessions, helping with those kind of bite-sized type sessions. So again, if that's something of interest, please shout, and would love to hear more. So with that, let's jump over now to the Azure blog. So first off, low-code development series, modernize your IoT future with Azure and Microsoft Power Platform. So this is a blog post all about low-code application development on Azure, and I believe it's talking about a series in terms of content and whatnot, where they'll be talking through how you can use things like Power Automate and the like, Azure Functions, etc., to go ahead and build some of these end-to-end workflows and platforms. So if you're interested in that kind of angle, worth taking a look at that. Azure HealthBot now adds 8 new regions with additional language support, including India, to support pandemic response. So I don't think that really needs any kind of explanation, to be honest. The additional regions are West US 2, East US 2, South Central US, UK South, North Europe, Southeast Asia, Australia East, and India Central. And there's new things in there, including a new symptom check languages as well. So it's interesting to see how there's this domain-specific alignment on top of the kind of bot framework and the bot piece there as well with this Azure Health Bot. So very, very interesting post there. And then finally, I gave a teaser to it earlier, but I'm super, super pleased about this one coming out, as you could tell by the excitement I'm sure in my voice. Develop production scale modern web apps quickly with Azure Static Web Apps. It's now GA, so which is awesome, awesome, awesome news. So what can you do? Globally distributed content for production apps, tailored CI/CD workflows from code to cloud, auto-provisioned preview environments, custom domain configuration and free SSL certificates, built-in access to a variety of authentication providers, route-based authorization, custom routing integration with serverless APIs powered by Azure Functions, a custom Visual Studio Code developer extension, and a feature-rich CLI for local development. A lot of that I had to build myself when I built Cloud with Chris, because Azure Static Web Apps was not available at the time. I had to build it using Azure Storage. I had to build all of the GitHub workflows, etc. myself as well. So a lot of that overhead is now taken away from you. You get a lot of benefit by using static web apps out of the box. And there are two tiers. There is a free tier and there is like a production tier. I forget the exact name that they call it, but there are these two tiers. So again, there's probably something there which will suit you. So if you've been wanting to get onto the static website bandwagon, I deeply encourage you to take a look at static web apps, because I think it's a brilliant service that is now available. So go ahead, check that one out as well. Okay, so that was the Azure blog post for this week. Next up, the Azure updates. Quick swig of water before we go. Okay, so general availability of enable Azure Site Recovery while creating Azure Virtual Machines. I think that's a great update. General availability Azure IoT Central new and updated features, of which there are several, including API general availability, new guidance articles, dashboard updates, IoT Edge updates, and device connectivity events. A roundup of the Azure Devops updates for May 2021, which we will have covered over the last month. Azure Database for PostgreSQL, flexible server with managed PG bouncer in preview. Azure Database for PostgreSQL Hyperscale Sites Managed PG Bouncer in public preview. General availability of Azure NetApp Files Application Consistent Snapshot Tool. General availability announcing lower pricing for provision throughput on Azure Ultradisks. Everyone loves price decreases there, price reductions, so that is a good one if you are interested in Ultradisks. Capacity calculator with Azure Cosmos DB API for MongoDB, now GA. Zone redundant storage option for Azure Managed Disks in public preview. That is particularly interesting, specifically if you are interested in high availability scenarios for virtual machine based workloads. Very, very interesting, that one. Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server PowerShell module in public preview. The public preview of Azure Database for PostgreSQL Flexible Server now supported in new regions. Those new regions are France Central and Brazil South. Public preview Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server announcing SSL enforcement and minimum TLS version choice. Azure Static Web Apps is now GA. Public preview of Application Gateway Mutual Authentication. That is a big one. That is one I've seen so many people requesting, actually. So the ability now to have the listener-specific SSL policies, that is now available. So a great, great update there. Azure Purview now supports private endpoints in public preview. GA of Azure API management updates, and I believe there were a few interesting ones there as well. So you can now validate client certificates with the new validate client certificate policy. VS Code extension now supports policy debugging for self-hosted gateways running locally. VS Code extension now supports Dapper and validation policies. I thought that one was interesting. Developer portal now supports resource owner password grant flow. A new Ciphers and Protocols page in the Azure portal lets you manage API gateways. Cipher and protocol configuration displays a warning if a weak cipher or protocol is enabled. The locations page in the Azure portal now lets you configure availability zones. You can now apply validation policies with the Visual Policies editor in the Azure portal without writing any policy code. That is excellent. And the timeout attribute of the send request policy now supports policy expressions. So again, lots of great updates there. GA of VNet peering support for Azure Bastion, great from a management perspective and also a cost management perspective. If you want to reduce the cost of not having to have Azure Bastion per different virtual networks, for example, you now no longer need that. public preview of Azure VPN client for macOS. And finally, action required. Migrate your Azure blockchain service data by 10th of September 2021 because the Azure blockchain service is being retired on that date. And don't you worry, if you are aware that we at Azure Thames Valley are running a session with Powers Jr. on this upcoming month about blockchain service and blockchain in general, don't you worry. That talk is still going ahead. We're still talking about blockchain and some wider pieces there as well. So stay tuned for that one is all I will say at this point. So now that is the Azure Update round done. Let's go ahead and look at the Azure DevOps blog super quickly. So first off, May patches for Azure DevOps Server are now available. So if you have Azure DevOps Server 2020.0.1, you should install Azure DevOps Server 2020.0.1.patch 3. Next up then, another Azure Fun Bites session with Jay Gordon here, and this time it is none other than my great friend Christos Matskas, who is now identity guru, program manager, developer advocate, enthusiast. I got many words I could describe him with, as I mentioned in the recording when we spoke previously, but they talk about all things Microsoft identity. So as always with Christos, I have no doubt it will be a brilliant session, so I deeply encourage you to go ahead and check out that particular episode. Another session now with Damian Brady, this time the on-prem to the cloud session, episode 3. With Abel Wang. This time, let's rub some DevOps on it. So you probably heard that phrase from either Abel or Donovan previously. And this time what they're talking about is how you can apply some of those DevOps principles to some of those legacy applications there. So that will be an interesting one for anyone who is bringing some of those more legacy-based applications over. And finally, of course, as is usual with the Azure DevOps blog, the community updates. So Azure DevOps setting up sprints with boards, running a build in Azure DevOps with Cake and Azure Artifacts. I like cake, not quite that cake. It's a different type of cake. I have been eating too much cake recently, but enough talk about cake. Create a pipeline with the Azure DevOps API. Azure DevOps pipelines, separating your build and deployment packaging. Automating Azure infrastructure deployments using Bicep and Azure pipelines. That is a video that I do want to do sometime soon, so I will get to that one at some point. And GitHub Actions and security best practices. Again, a very great topic there as well. So great selection this week, great bit of variety. And finally, on the GitHub blog side of things, security keys are now supported for the SSH Git operations. So, for example, you'll be aware that GPG keys have been around for a while. There's a lot of investment happening, of course, from GitHub in the DevSecOps space. So even more so here, being able to use security keys such as YubiKey to go ahead now for your SSH Git operations. So great update there. Pleased to see that one. And finally here, we have video uploads now available across GitHub. Well, that one probably doesn't sound like a revolutionary update. It's like, oh, okay, you can upload videos. Cool, so what? But actually, when you think about the scenario where I'm going ahead raising a bug on an open source project, or I'm trying to replicate something and show someone something, being able to see that, being able to visualize that and show the steps that I actually take and show step by step what's going on and what's happening along the way is a big deal, actually. So in terms of being able to help maintain open source projects, reproduce bugs, all of these kind of things, that is a big update. They talk here as well about providing context on pull requests for reviewers. Lots and lots of great updates, and you can even do it from the mobile app as well. So great update there, great set of updates from GitHub. So lots for you to keep up to date with this week. And that is it for this week. So I'm just going to once again just say a big thank you, because sitting at 506 subscribers, 506 people who would be willing to listen to some of the things that I talk about, some of the things that I summarize, that I build content around. It's been a journey, and I'm continuing to go on that journey, and I'm really thankful for it. So just a huge thank you again from the bottom of my heart, and I will be continuing on and releasing more brilliant content for you as well. So with that, let's go ahead, head back and wrap up this episode here. So there we go. Thank you very much if you have been tuning in this session live. And of course, if you haven't been live, that is fine. You can go ahead and watch this back on YouTube. You can also listen in on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and cloudwithchris.com if you are so interested as well. And of course, I don't just have this kind of audio and video based content. I also have a series of blogs available on cloudwithchris.com. They are also on dev.to and medium.com as well. But if you do like this video content, I encourage you, please go ahead, like this episode, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because those percentages have not changed whatsoever. There are still 90% of you over the last 28 days that have watched my content and are not subscribed. So come on, we can probably get to 1,000 by the end of the year. I'm not going to set that as an aim. As you mentioned in the Thursday session around mental health, I need to be careful about setting myself too many challenges and too many barriers. So that would be a lovely stretch goal. We've hit the 500. Thank you again so much. And I really look forward to making more brand new content for you over the coming weeks, months, and into 2022 as well. So with that, thank you again for watching. Have a great week, and I will see you in an episode very soon. Until next time, bye for now.